We're tracking David's trajectory, and we're trying to see how God got him ready for what he was anointed to do. And we see here a convergence of two abilities that don't seem to go together. Okay, but both of these things would be needed for David to be in position to fulfill his purpose. And so you've got to understand that it is at the intersection of your idiosyncrasies that your destiny will often make itself clear. Those things that don't seem to go together. Those things about you that don't seem to make sense, because all of us are walking contradictions. But here's good news. Your calling will often become clearer because of your contradictions. I didn't say in spite of them, but because of them. Check it out. The reason that David had the courage to approach Saul and ask him if he could fight Goliath in chapter 17 was because he had been playing harp for him in his bedroom. Saul's job replacement was sitting in his bedroom singing him to sleep, and he didn't even know it. But if David was just a warrior, he never would have had access to Saul. If he was just a harpist, he would have got killed on the battlefield. You can't sing Goliath to sleep. No, you need a sling for that. But how many know that God will give you everything you need for every situation you face? So if you need a harp, he'll give you a harp. If you need a sling, he'll give you a sling. But you've got to learn how to work out of your uniqueness. Touch your neighbor and tell him, you're weird, you're weird, you're weird. But God works through weirdness. See, God works through your weirdness. God works through the stuff that doesn't seem to go together. A couple weeks ago, my brother-in-law was over at our house, and he was in the kitchen making a sandwich. I want to show you a picture of his sandwich. I took a picture because it was just, to me, it was so remarkable. Here's the sandwich. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, indeed, that is a turkey and jelly sandwich. Come on, that's terrible. How many agree turkey and jelly doesn't belong between two pieces of bread touching one another? I like turkey, I like jelly, but don't put them together and call them a sandwich. It's not a sandwich, it's an abomination. And I told him so. I said, that's disgusting. He said, no, I like them together. And I think sometimes God looks at things sometimes that we think don't go together. And God says, you know what? I like turkey with jelly because my thoughts aren't your thoughts and my ways aren't your ways. And I made you weird in a wonderful way. Here's the way one scripture says it. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Fearfully and wonderfully made. That means there's some stuff about me that's strange, but guess what? God made me strange. See, God put the turkey with the jelly. God gave me that experience and that experience because he couldn't give me just the same old experiences that everybody else has, because there's something he wants me to do that only I can do. What God will do in your life if you'll let him, he'll take the turkey and the jelly, and he'll take your upbringing and your current situation, and he'll take the thing that you went to school for, that you thought you were going to use in your career, and the thing that you're really doing to get a paycheck. And if you'll follow him and trust him and be diligent where he put you and serve him with excellence where he put you, and trust in the uniqueness of how he made you. You know, the scripture says that all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. So God will take the conflicts and make them work together to complete your calling. I'm speaking to somebody today who's conflicted. You've never made sense to yourself. You can't reconcile this with that. You can't reconcile what you've been through with where God said he was going to take you. But I want to announce you're a harpist and a warrior. Nothing is wasted in God's economy. It's all good. That's why God made you weird. You ever wondered why you were weird? You just found out. Because God needed a harpist in chapter 16 that would know how to handle his business in chapter 17. So you had to be both. Touch somebody, say you had to be both. You had to be both. You couldn't fit in. You couldn't fit in. It wasn't possible. Because you were custom tailored for something. So you couldn't be off the rack. You had to be made to measure. You had to be fearfully and wonderfully made. Uniqueness. Let's review. Diligence. Are you diligent? Are you developing what God has deposited inside of you? Excellence. Are you giving God the best gift? One theologian who wrote a book on prayer, he said, what you are is God's gift to you. What you become is your gift to God. Excellence. Excellence. If it's for God, it ought to be good. If it's for God, we ought to work hard at it. If it's for God, it ought to matter to us. If it's for God, we ought to do it. We ought to do it better than somebody who's doing it without God. Christian music ought not suck. Yeah, it ought to have a beat. It ought to feel good. It ought to sound right. If it's for God, it ought to be good. But it all comes down to experience. See, because it says that for some undisclosed period of time, David, verse 21, entered Saul's service, and Saul liked him very much. Now, if you know the rest of the story about David, that sentence in itself is a little funny because this is chapter 16 and Saul likes David because he can play well and he's a warrior. By chapter 19, Saul's going to be throwing spears at David, trying to kill him because the people are praising David more than Saul. And I just threw that in there for free to let you know that sometimes the very thing that makes you great is the thing that'll also get you in trouble. Sometimes the thing that makes you gifted is also the thing that'll get you killed. So don't be surprised when trouble comes because of your gift. Don't be surprised if when you sing for somebody, sometimes they applaud and sometimes they throw something at you, because the same gift will accomplish both. Yeah. The same thing that makes you great is also the thing that makes you vulnerable, right? But here's the part I wanted to read. It says that Saul liked him very much and David became one of his armor bearers. Again, this is all part of God's strategy to get David in position to fulfill his purpose. Look, and then Saul sent word to Jesse saying, allow David to remain in my service, for I am pleased with him. I want you to understand that God will arrange every experience in your life to serve his purpose.